And to come back to your point about Islam, yes, I told you that I spent quite a lot of time in Egypt, and when I came back to the UK, I was shocked at the level of anti-Muslim stuff that I was seeing. And I spent a lot of time in Switzerland in a very traditional right-wing community. I lived in a village. The children all came home from lunch. From school, they came home and ate lunch at school and then went back to school in the afternoon. It's a very traditional way of life. But when I came back to England, I was shocked to see what had happened to my country. And it's the English native, my English culture to support the underdog, if you like. So I would rail against this, what I saw as easy abuse, and I still do that. I think there are a lot of good points to Islam. It's also a traditional way of life, but I think it's been distorted. I think all religions have been distorted, and those who distort those religions happen to be, in general, part of the same community that attack people like me. And yes, the double standards of the anti-Islam lobby. I despair, but we see with our politicians, nobody will speak out. Nobody will speak out.
I didn't, obviously I was always very anti-Islam. And then probably the early part of this year, I started looking at the bigger picture, if you want. And it's actually quite frightening how quickly people that applaud you for speaking out against Islam turn against you when you dare to question the other community that must not be questioned. But yeah, double standards, hypocrisy.
What had happened to you, and watched your talk with Mark Collette. I've still yet to listen to your talk with Morgoth, but I'm looking forward very much to that. And also when I discovered secret sources.
Yes, Dion.
And I knew that there'd been some dissent within the Tommy Robinson movement, because I'd come across a gentleman who goes by the name of Shady Anderson, and he'd pointed out already the double standards. And yes, I think the funny thing about the Tommy Robinson case and my case is that the day I was found guilty was the same day that Tommy went up to Leeds, reported on the ongoing grooming gang trial up there, and was, of course, arrested and thrown in jail for 3 months. So the headlines on that day were all about Tommy's arrest for this alleged contempt of court. And my important case regarding freedom of speech was somewhat suppressed because of that. I wrote about it at the time. I didn't particularly counter-signal Tommy Robinson, but I counter-signaled perhaps the influence of people like Brian of London behind this, who were, in fact, Brian of London, his close associates were at the very beginning those who began the targeting of me. So I've always been very aware of that, but very wary of counter-signaling. Yes, since you've come out, and since Dion has also expressed, and I think it's great that it's two women saying these things in softly spoken voices, with the sources well researched, that we can now move on for this and perhaps make more people aware of these double standards. Because Tommy, of course, when he was released, he then went up to report on Count Dankula in the name of freedom of expression. Count Dankula, who'd taught his girlfriend's dog to give a Nazi salute, and to the command "gas the Jews," which is repeated I don't know how many times during this famous little video. I did at the time, I tried to create an alliance with Count Dankula, but he wasn't interested. So the free speech for the anti-Islam counter-jihad movement, the free speech only extends, as you rightly say, to criticism of Islam and Muslims. It does not extend to criticism of Jews and Judaism.
Maybe if you had been pro-Israel, you might have got a lot more support. It just is a bit crazy because what Count Dankula did and your songs, you sang songs. I don't, and like you said, he taught his girlfriend's pug to do the next every time he said gas to Jews. So that's comedy, and your songs are satire. So where's the difference? Why is one, applauded and loved by the movement? He spoke at the freedom of speech event in May last year to a large crowd who applauded him. So where was your invite?
But Count Dankula grovelled an apology. He showed remorse. There's the difference. And yes, support of Israel, like I said, I'd spent a lot of time in Muslim countries, a heck of a lot of time, and read up on the occupation, on the illegal occupation. That was my that was my downfall, if it was to get involved in this ongoing conflict.